is organization. It's a movement. We're talking about unity. We're talking about unity. So we're aimed to taking down the system of race by educating, enlightening, informing, and positively debating with those who have counterviews.
Welcome to Talk About Unity. We're here in February, ending out February pretty close to, and it's amazing. This year is going by really fast, and if you thought 2020 was bad, wait till you see 2021. We're down here in Texas, and we just came out of the Texas freeze of 2021, and boy, I tell you what, it's been an amazing time, huh, Richard? What do you think?
The snowpocalypse.
The snowpocalypse.
You had some snowvid.
Yes.
Some snowvid.
Wow.
And
yeah.
some snow. Hey, I had snow squatch crust my pipes. So.
And so what we're going to do on today's show, we're going to talk about leadership. And we call this our leadership special because we're looking at all these events that have happened from the start of COVID last year to all the things that have happened in our country and definitely in Texas the last couple of week and a half because of the cold. We're talking about how does leadership play a role in this, because we think that we've got a crisis of leadership and we want to make this our leadership special. So everything that we talk about today on our show, and we're going to talk about, I guess you'd call it the K sounds, because I would say the cold, COVID, and keto. Those are our topics today. The cold, COVID, and keto. And we're going to talk about how leadership specifically plays into each one of those things, because as John Maxwell says, and I'm a John Maxwell guy, and he says everything rises and falls on leadership.
It does.
And so I believe that that's true. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's turn to and begin talking about that. Richard, tell me your story. What happened in your life with the Great Freeze?
The snowpocalypse?
Yeah, we call it the what do we call it? The Great Freeze, the Texas Freeze of 2021. You got to put a title on all these events now.
Texas Freeze of 2021. I had so much fun watching the Weather Channel. You know, they create all these graphics and cyber stuff and make it really sound, oh my goodness. But hey, listen, this whole winter storm was no punk at all. Had 5 pipes bust in my house, and thank God for friends that are plumbers. And so we got.
You had the plumbing connection. That's huge.
I had the
that was
plumbing
huge.
hook up. Had one giant. We had all the pipes at the church and the campus. Had them all insulated, and the doors open and the heaters going. Everything's great. The one we forgot was we used to have the big water baptistry at the back of the building instead of doing them at the cross outside, and forgot to put the heater in there, and it hit that big water line, busted. And but they came and fixed it. But and then
did you find these guys? Are they contractors who've done work for you before? Or how did you find them? Because plumbers are in demand.
I have the friend who has all of the friends.
Okay,
and I said, please. And he's done work for me for years. And not too many people I'd say I trust my life with, but this guy.
You trust your plumber.
I trust this guy. And so he had his guys out there next morning, took care of me and took care of a lot of other friends. And it's good to have friends. It's good to have friends. Took care of us, but man, it was something.
What about the house? How was your house? How's your house do?
Every once in a while, I'll make a smart decision. So in our subdivision, many of the power lines are underground, and for whatever reason, I don't know if things have deteriorated over the years, but the power always seems to go out. I got tired of that. You have stuff in your refrigerator that your ice cream melts, and of course more than that. But I decided 6 months ago to get one of those big giant high-powered generators, and they were dragging their feet. So
you're the only guy in the community with one of those?
Nope.
Others have those?
There's a bunch of us that have it, but not everybody, not as many that wants them now. There's a bunch of them getting them.
Yeah, they want them afterwards. Yeah.
So I yelled at them about a month ago and said, either you put this in or I won't have my money back. And it's amazing when you rent, and of course I don't like to do that, but they showed up the next day.
You used your 6'5" and said, hey, if y'all don't come put this in. All right.
And they came the next day.
Keto's got you feeling kind of cocky, huh?
Hey, come on.
Keto, I can.
And they came and they installed it, and 2 weeks later, snowpocalypse hit. And when the power went off, boom, the generator kicked on, and I'm like, I had no idea I was this smart. Amy's like, you're brilliant. I'm like, she finally complimented me. No, I'm just kidding. We had, and so it was good. We had some family stay over, and took care of some folks at the church, and just
That's cool.
everybody found a way to connect. Hey, let me just say this: it's so important to have relationships. You never know when we're going to need somebody, and you never know when somebody's going to need us, and to be able to come together. And man, it just turned out to be a beautiful thing. Wish we could have helped more people. And I the more we come together as a community, the better things are going to be. So.
That's great. That's a great story. People talk about this guilt. My wife was talking about the fact that we lost power, I think like day 1 or day 1.5 for about 12 hours. And so we were thinking at the time that it was really bad because it was during the night. It was really cold. And then after our power came back on, then other people started losing power in the latter part of the freeze. And some people were losing it for 30 hours. And she said, that's where guilt came. She started going, I feel bad now because we got power and they don't, and so we were trying to do some things to alleviate the pain of other people suffering during this time. Good. And so that's all you can do. But I tell you what, it was happening. I read a story. I saw a story on the news. A 94-year-old woman froze to death. And I was like, gosh, that's got to be terrible because my dad's 93, and I ran one. That was the first thing I did was. You asked if I got out on the ice, snow and ice, and I did in my minivan. Ooh. And man, you talk about treacherous driving.
Got you, man. Come on.
But hey, it worked though. It worked, and I call it God's minivan because man, that thing just does some super things. It was in a flood once, and the water was up, and it was still driving, and water's up to the door coming in, and it was still driving. So it's blessed by God. So I figure it can do anything.
You get the 18 van.
Yeah.
There you
but
go.
We went around there and I made sure my dad was warm enough, and I said if it goes down to 0, he would survive because I gave him these super mink blankets that I got when I was in the Marine Corps from Korea and everything like that. So yeah, so that's so some tragedies were happening, and that's the cool thing about Texas is that really you do have that sense of let's band together, which is what the country needs to understand right now. This is what we do when crisis hits. We come together and we help other people, and we got to do more of that. And remember Hurricane Harvey? That happened big scale, and people come together. And so maybe God's sending us a message saying, I'm trying to get y'all to come together. Maybe that's the message He's got.
Somebody wrote a song about coming together. right. Yeah, we need to come together more and more and more. And Texas people did real good as far as coming together in the homes. But I just have to tell you, and here's the public service announcement I just want to give. If it snows in Houston, Texas, do not drive. You may think you got it figured out, but nobody else on the road does.
You're right about that.
I saw more slipping and sliding. I have a Jeep with the nice big tires, and I thought, I've driven in this many times, and so I knew I wasn't going to have a problem. But I saw so many people. I'm like, there's ice on the top, and there they go, slipping and sliding like an ice skater, and hitting the walls and all that. Yeah, and
we had the big one up in Dallas-Fort Worth area, right at the beginning.
Goodness.
That was just the beginning.
That was the beginning.
Which was said, Texas, get ready.
Do not.
So that kind of happened. All right, so let's talk about, want to hit some of these other angles about it. We're talking about leadership, remember? So let's talk about the cold and how the leadership handled it. We had the issue. Let's start with Senator Cruz. That's kind of on the lighter side.
Man.
Senator Cruz.
Okay, so let's look at both sides of this. Let's try to give people the benefit of the doubt where we can. Let's see the good thing. Okay, does everybody need a vacation? Yes, everybody needs a vacation. Does
during the Great Texas Freeze?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
Do they need a vacation? Yes. I'll get to the other side of that.
Okay.
Should we make sure that our wives, especially our daughters, reach their destination? Should we make sure that we get them to where they need to go? Yes, we should.
Every husband would say yes, absolutely.
But on the other side of that thing, when your state is in the middle of a snowpocalypse, you probably ought to see if you can work out some other strategy. Hey, let's go ahead and forego this, and we'll take 2 weeks in a month from now, when it's a little bit warmer or whatever. It just wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look for Senator Cruz. And he came home quick, and he did say, that was a mistake on my part. So hopefully he learned his lesson on that thing. I personally would have bailed out on that one and told my wife and my sweet daughter, come on, let's stay home. We got work to do. So.
And the one thing that is happening though is that I think people are feeling more. I've heard this a lot lately from citizens, and that is that A word, accountability. And so they are asking the questions, and I think as long as we do that, that's what we do because that's the responsibility that our leaders have to us as the citizenry, and that is that level of accountability, so that we can ask those questions and say, respectfully, is this a good decision that you
No,
made for
no,
us,
listen.
for us, the people?
He
And
did.
so
He did own
we
it.
do it the
though.
right way.
He did
Yeah, he
own
did.
it.
He did,
Yeah.
and that was one of the things why. And people, everybody was saying, "Well, what's going to happen? What are going to be the repercussions?" I said, "Well, because he apologized, probably won't last long."
Yeah.
So that was cool. Now, what about the issue of what kind of energy? Because now this is the issue of
my.
energy and green energy or fossil fuels. What's the story? I mean, we had this thing.
So I
that-
saw a letter from Michael McCall yesterday. Said they're going into a full-blown investigation of what's happening in Texas regarding the energy supply, and so hopefully there's going to be some really good findings. The thing about this green energy that's in our state now, it works good when the weather's fine. But the windmills completely froze. 25% of Texas power is windmills. And those windmills froze and they were toast. I don't know why nobody saw that, but
Well, yeah, I heard that whatever energy supply you have, they all have to be winterized. Because they said natural gas lines froze, the turbines froze on the windmills. So that sounds like somebody, and I don't know who's responsible, but somebody missed that, where you've got to winterize all of these energy sources, because anything that you've got, if you don't do the proper maintenance, it's kind of like me and my lawn tractor. I never do proper maintenance, and then it goes kaput, and I'm going, "What's the problem here?" Yeah, you're the problem. You didn't do maintenance.
Yeah.
So that's another issue.
Yeah, so in ERCOT, we made this really wise decision to break loose from the rest of the United States energy corridor, and so
Is ERCOT only Texas?
only Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, and so and that's good if you got it figured out. It's really bad if you don't. When you're dependent on yourself and yourself is not doing too good, then all of a sudden now you have problems. So they're really going to have to look at that. We're going to see a push. I see a lot of it. All the web hits on solar power and solar power storage.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a big push towards that, but we don't really understand what the ramifications of that is going to be. So I don't know. It's an interesting place to be, but definitely there's some winds of change happening in Texas regarding energy, and I just don't really. I don't think anybody understands what this is going to look like 5 years from now, but it's going to be different.
I heard Governor Abbott talking about it, and initially he seemed to be saying that green energy, if you own green energy, this is going to cause us problems. And so he was kind of making the case, and that was early on. And I don't know if he changed his mind about that. But is it simply just Texas is supposedly the biggest energy producer in the country?
Mm-hmm. I believe that's true.
And so if we've got this problem, how is the rest of the country then going to? And because think about the Northeast and the stuff that they encounter. So if they're able to maintain, and we've got more energy supply than they have.
Well, there's
like
coal, there's nuclear,
Mm-hmm.
there's wind, there's solar, and then there's natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of pieces there. We are diversified as far as a country in our energy supply, but these big hits like this with 25%, and it was windmills that weren't protected. I mean, solar
winterized.
They weren't winterized.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to that. I really do see because they said that a huge security risk in the United States now is the solar dependence. If you have your solar panels, that's great and fine, but yet you're disconnected from the rest of the grid, and so. But if you don't see, if we all go independent away from the grid, there's good and bad pieces of that, and that really hasn't been studied out.
When you say the grid, are you talking about what the national? There's a national
there's
grid.
a national grid, and
everybody's
Texas
connected into that, and
everybody's
Texas
connected.
is separate.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and so in this new strategy is that you can produce your own solar power and then put it to your batteries. You charge your batteries and you run off your power at night. But then you can sell your energy. You're supposed to sell your energy back to the grid, so you can actually make money off of yours. But
you got to give us a class on that. That's
interesting. We've been looking at that for a while, but I don't know. I think there's going to be some advancements in that, but I don't think really anybody's understanding what the backside of that is.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a backside of that. So.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, that's good. Good topic to start with. We're talking about the cold and how we're handling our energy. Whether or not climate change is impacted in there, and those are things that we'll continue to dialogue about. At the end of the day, I think we got a plan with God in mind. Yep. They call them natural disasters. I call it God doing what He does. And so, because at the end of the day, He's trying to send us a message, and sometimes it's just simply the message that you all can't handle this by yourselves. Mm-hmm. You might want to think about what I'm trying to do here. And so that's why I think when people talk about climate change, yeah, it's changed. The world is changing. Life is changing every day, and we got to be ready for it. So we come back from the break. We're going to go in. We're going to talk about where we are with COVID because, we hit a new milestone there. And so we're going to come back after the break, and we're going to talk about that. On Talk About Unity, we're talking about leadership today.
That's good.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show where I bring the talk.
And I bring the unity.
And together we talk about unity. Unity is what matters.
Come on.
And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that. And that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge and we bring the unity. So we're just glad to Edge Radio Network every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk About Unity because here at Edge Radio Network, truth still matters. Hey, and we're back to talk about unity today on this leadership special. We're talking about how all of these crises that we've been encountering lately, how they have this impact on leadership and how leadership should be having an impact on these crises. And so we were talking about the cold and the great freeze, the Texas freeze of 2021. We talked about that in the first part of the show. And now we want to move to something different. Recently, and that was yesterday, we just hit the 500,000 death marker for COVID in the U.S. And so that's pretty sobering when you think about it because, of course, we lead everybody. We're, I think, more than twice the amount of any deaths in any other country in the world. And so that's a pretty sobering statistic. And so a lot of leadership issues impacted there. So what do you think about our COVID and where we stand and where we're headed? What do you think?
John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. That's one of my favorite quotes of John. And I think it is an underscored statement that leadership is lacking in a great deal when it comes to COVID and these deaths. As you know, in New York, there's a huge investigation going on with Mr. Cuomo regarding how he handled the whole nursing home situation. And not to throw rocks at him, not to throw rocks at the nursing home community, but there were some obvious misses that happened and took sick COVID people from the hospital and put them in those nursing home situations, and it spread like wildfire. And that's where the bulk of the deaths were in the beginning of COVID. And so we definitely have some lessons to learn, and leadership needs to own what what's theirs, and don't try to own everything, but own theirs.
Well, let's talk about that. The 500,000. What do you think? Do you think it's possible that we could have been much lower, or do you think it could have been much worse? I mean, so because you're at this point, could it have been way worse? Could it have been way better? What do you think? What is your personal view?
Oh, man, I think part of it was the numbers that are coming back. So some of the things said, oh, you have to stay home and you have to isolate. So that was one of the, stay at home, stay with your friends, stay isolated. And then you find out a few months later, they said the worst thing you could do is be in close proximity with people that have it, because it's the close contact that causes it. And so a lot of people got sick by staying home. And so there's been this conflicting, here's the advice by the medical community. And they
Well, that means that,
they
yeah.
don't know what I mean, honestly, nobody knew how to handle this because it has been so radically different.
Okay.
And so some of the advice was not good advice, but they adhered to it. And the whole
Well, let's do some analysis of that,
Yeah,
because
sure.
how has the advice or knowledge, how has our knowledge changed since the beginning? So March 2020, when we first thought we got COVID, we don't know when we really did, but we think that's when we first contracted here in the United States. And we're now almost at March of 2021.
Right.
So how has our knowledge changed? Has it gotten better, or do you think we're still guessing?
I think we're still guessing to a certain extent. I was listening to a program that was coming in because I knew we were going to talk about this, and I was listening to different radio programs, and they were showing excerpts of Dr. Fauci. And he really did a great job with Ebola and SARS and some other diseases in the past. That's why he has such a large platform now with this COVID thing. But in the beginning, he really was guessing. He really was guessing. You need to socially distance. Oh, it's really not that big of a deal. You need to do this. You need to do that. Wear a mask. Oh no, you don't really need to wear a mask. We're moving into herd immunity. No, we're not moving it. There's been this back and forth, and I think it's so important to say this.
So that's clearly a leadership issue.
In leadership, what we need to say when we don't know, stop pretending like you do. Just say, we really don't understand this virus. We really don't know what to do. So we just need to pump the brakes. Take caution. Let's be more cautious than not. And just look at the data. Just what does the data say about these things?
Well, the amazing thing, over the last year, what we found was that we had doctors on this side and doctors on that side, and they had different stories.
Right.
And so it was hard for people, because I think they were both saying, based on their data that they had, they were saying this drug works. They were saying this drug doesn't work. And you have doctors, medical professionals, and so they're at war. And so it's like, what do we do as citizens? And then once again, that gets exacerbated by the political divisions. And so you have one group of people over here saying this, mostly politically, and the other people politically saying this thing. And so we're more confused about it. And I even think at this point, I still don't really know. Because it's very curious why in some homes, as you were saying earlier, you have strange things happen where everybody in the house gets it, but there's one person who's in the house with them and they don't get it.
Happened in my house.
And so so you get these strange things that happen, which, can somebody explain that to us? And I don't think we've gotten satisfactory explanations to some of those events. And so we're just as confused. And I think in the big picture, we're all kind of doing like Donald Trump. We're hoping it just goes away. I mean, I think that's what we're doing. Yeah, everybody's getting vaccinated. People are getting, or not everybody, but a lot of people are getting vaccinated. And we're thinking that's going to work. But then you hear about these new variants and these new strains of the virus, and maybe it works against it, maybe it doesn't. So that could, because Fauci is also saying we could be facing another spike. And I'm like, my goodness, so just too many people that don't know still talking. They like me. I don't know, but I'm still talking.
So just look at the data, okay? The least affected population so far statistically are the kids.
Right.
The children are the lead. Of course, the elderly is the greatest.
So we got to make everybody young again?
No. So they're like, kids can't go to school.
Yeah.
The first people that should be vaccinated should be, if they're really going down the vaccine train, is the teachers, and then let the kids go back to school.
Yeah.
and let's get that segment of our population, and then the whole rules. Across the state lines, the bars can be open till 3 a.m. and on the other side they have to be closed at 9 because obvious COVID has this intelligence where it knows that it cannot infect people after 3 a.m. and 9 p.m. over here.
So what's happening? So let's talk about that. Go down the education path here, because who is really responsible for that? Because we talk about how education is not federalized. It's not at a national level. It's up to the states. It's up to the states. And so you got various things happening in states. And so Texas, here in Texas, most of our kids have been back in school for a long time. Whereas in California, they're not even in school. And so is this an issue of states' rights or the states' responsibilities? And states are the ones who are making the mistakes. And this is why it's so confusing. And it's why you have some states doing well, some states doing poorly. Is this the governor's fault, or is this because we didn't have a national plan? Where should the responsibility be on this? Should we have had a national plan, or should it still be up to the governors to make sure their state is functioning in the COVID environment?
I think this is what I love about Texas. I think that the government needs to get out of the way and let people figure it out. I really do. The unseen.
So let our leaders at the state level figure it out. Is what you're saying?
The unseen hand of capitalism, right? All of a sudden now money answereth all things. No, it doesn't. Actually, it doesn't. If people would get out of the way and here you want to fix this whole school thing, it's this. Okay, teachers and administrators in the school, your paycheck stopped today, unless you get back in the classroom. They will come up with innovative ways to teach these kids.
So what did I don't know what Abbott did, but what does we do in Texas? Because Texas is, I think the schools are pretty much in.
I don't know exactly. And there was this back and forth, but some of the districts, they jumped right back in pretty quick. And I don't understand exactly how that all worked out. But some states, their students are still not in school at all. And have you looked at the suicide rate and the addiction rate and the child abuse rate and all these other kind of things that have happened since that? Our kids are suffering. Should we take precautions with our teachers? Absolutely. Should there be whether it's barriers or even I don't know, put the teacher behind a glass in a let's do some ventilation. I don't know what the answers are, but our kids need to be in school and our teachers need to be teaching. And if not,
See, and this might be off the topic, but I'm thinking is maybe this is the way the United States was designed to work, so that you had governors who had the authority to determine how things were going to run in their states. They set up their state governments, and people, the citizens of the United States, could then decide which mode or which method they liked the best, and that's where they would move. And which is why I think you're seeing people fleeing from New York and California going to Florida and Texas, and we're getting an influx of people that way.
Less government.
Yeah, because people are making decisions based on what their particular interests are, because there will still always be a lot of people who say, I love California for the weather, I love it for this, I love it for that, I love it for whatever's going on. But you got a lot of people who say, they said Elon Musk has moved his plant to Texas, the Tesla guy. And so, and so you got people like that who have business interests and say, well, no, this is a better climate, no pun intended, climate for me. And so he moves to Texas. And so maybe this is the way it was supposed to work, and so when everybody starts complaining about what the federal government's not doing, maybe you should say, maybe you just need to move.
Those in the California audience are probably going to hate me right now. But I just have to say, they are waking up finally. People in California are finally waking up, and they are realizing that the government works for us. We don't work for the government. We pay our taxes, and all of a sudden it got twisted. It feels like we're working for the government. No, the government works for us. We don't work for them. And like the lady that has go ahead.
Oh, but why? Because while you're saying that, you're saying they're waking up. Is that why you're saying that Gavin Newsom is being recalled?
That's exactly right. And so here it is. Here's where it all comes from. The lady has a restaurant.
That's leadership.
Yeah, the lady has the restaurant. She cannot have dining. But if it's outside dining, well, that's all up for debate. Then they have this film crew across the street that they need to be fed, And so they have all these people, and Gavin's over there, rubbing shoulders with all these people, and they're all eating right next to the lady who can't even pay her employees. And she just throws a fit. I mean, her hair on fire. Look at all those people, with the governor.
She pulled a Tom Cruise. You heard about Tom Cruise?
Yeah. She just threw a hissy fit. Look, mine's empty, and theirs is not. And and it's the government. And it's they're playing politics. And there's a few of her that really got things stirred up. They had this it's a recall vote. 1.5 million people
that's
so they're going to have a recall vote, and who knows, they said there's so many people that want to be the governor of California right now that he might not get recalled because it's all going to get watered down on who gets what vote. But who knows? All I know, it's getting stirred up and woke up in California right now.
So and so this is the segment where we're talking about COVID and the number of deaths. So I'm trying to, do you think that it could have been much worse, or do you think it could have been much better? Or do you think it's about right?
I'm wondering, if we look at the data, are they mixing the seasonal flu? Because right now, how many people had flu this year? Have you heard of anybody having the flu? I'm sure there's a few people that had flu.
They don't get flu. It's now COVID.
It's now COVID. Well, I don't know. I mean, are they mixing the numbers, or was what people had in the past, what they thought was flu, was really?
But even what we're reporting, could it have been much worse or much better? Even if let's say they're valid, 500,000 deaths.
I'd hate to play armchair quarterback.
500,000.
I mean,
play armchair quarterback here. You gotta throw it for the touchdown.
If they would have been a little bit more cautious in the beginning, we probably could. It could have been better. Could it have been worse?
What do you mean when you say they could have been more?
No, the people say, hey, okay, let me tell you how I think it really would have been better, because here's the
I'm trying to nail you down here
graph.
to get you.
Here's the graph. Had there not been the protests, remember all the riots when there was, okay, you can't go to a game, you can't do these other things, and you have to distance. But was there any distancing going on when there was 80,000 people piled together during the protest? I think that's where some of the things got sparked off.
Okay. So that would have been all right. So there are lots of different ways things could have probably been better, and so at the end of the day, probably lots of ways it could have probably been worse or better. So we're in America.
There was a lot of misses along this.
Yeah. So all right, that's interesting. All right, we're gonna take a break and we're gonna come back and talk about we got a great topic coming up, because we talked about the cold, we talked about COVID. Next, we're going to be talking about keto. It's K-sounding day. Cold, COVID, and keto. And we got some really great information. We're trying to get y'all ready for Natural Nation, which follows us on the network here at Edge Radio. But man, we're going to have this segment almost every week, because we're finding out some amazing things about diet and nutrition. Because Richard's doing it, I'm doing it, and we didn't start it together, but we're on it now. And we're going to tell you about keto when we come back on Talk About Unity.
When people stop talking to each other, society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
We are back. We are back. We are back. We are back. We are back with a race, and we are on the edge, and we're headed to the middle. So don't push me. I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head. All right, talk to us about that keto thing, Richard. This is a third part of our show.
You are my brother.
We're on
from
keto.
Another mother. You have helped me.
Keto.
Man, I come in here and you put these shirts on and you're all cut and things are popping, and I'm like, man, how did you do this? What I love about
we're twins. You know we're twins.
What I love about a true friend is a true friend will share his secrets. And I've heard about keto. I have heard about keto, and I thought when they were I was listening, but I didn't want them to know I was listening, so I heard them say it, and I thought they said Cheeto diet. And so that didn't work.
So he went and bought all these chips, whatever, and that didn't work for him.
I got
Cheetos,
my push-up
not
going
Cheetos.
on. I'd lean down on the floor and bite that Cheeto and go up and bite that Cheeto, and it did not work. But when you told me about keto, and I see the results of keto, I thought, Daddy got to try something. And
so you started when was
about 5 weeks ago?
5 weeks, because I started keto in October, late October. After my wife was first diagnosed with cancer, I started keto and started talking about it. And I'm hearing you now say some of the same things that I was saying about how great you feel and things. So tell them kind of your story about your keto experience.
I'm bumping 250 on the scale. I just said I'm big, right?
He's 6'5", so it's not like a big deal. 6'5".
And then this week, I weighed 220.9.
Wow.
Yeah.
30
and let me just tell you this. This was not hard. This was not hard at all.
So it's not like a diet. It's a keto plan. It's not a diet.
Lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
What it is.
Okay.
And so here's some of it. Let go of sugar. Soft drinks, especially soft drinks and sugar. Let go of bread. That's a little tough. Let go of the donuts. That's a little difficult. Let go of the carbs.
Wow.
That was a little difficult because I like some French fries. I like some mashed potatoes, but they have great alternatives. And I'm telling you, I went into the grocery store a couple of days ago because I love bacon, I love eggs, but you know what? You just can't survive on bacon and eggs, and you have to add fiber in your diet.
Right.
So I'm just telling you my journey. I went into the grocery store and was looking at labels. It's amazing how many things that you love don't have any carbs. Did you know? Hey, okay, so guess with me. How many carbs does summer sausage have? Zero.
Well, you're in Texas and we love meat anyway. We're big meat eating people. So this is probably tough for people out in the West and like California where they're big.
They eat fish. How many carbs are in tuna? Zero, right?
Yeah. So it's
pickles.
So why is keto? And I'm gonna talk to you about it being a leadership issue. Why is this a leadership issue? As I was talking to Richard about this yesterday, we were talking about the fact that because he's an example. He's a pastor. He stands up in front of his congregation every week, and we all do in our various spheres of life. We are all leaders in our realms. Whether you're a parent at home, whether you're a teacher at school, on your job, wherever you are, and you don't realize it, but people are watching you. They are. And so this becomes a leadership issue, especially when people in a position like Richard's, because he's talked to me about people have been saying, what are you doing? Why are you losing this weight? And so there's an answer that he can give that's probably going to affect their lives, because the same way he was looking at what was happening with me as I was going through the keto thing, that's the way people are looking at him. And that's why it's a leadership issue, because you are making an impact on people with your lifestyle, whether you know it or not. The question is that a positive impact? And I think with keto it is, because when people start asking, then, because our country, and you might not know this, I'm sure you do if you've been out walking amongst the masses, but we've got a serious health issue. And here's the thing. What we take often as being, this is talk about unity, folks, as we take it as being issues of division because of race and other things, sometimes it's basic health issues.
Yes.
Because they were talking about how COVID was disproportionately impacting the minority community or the people of color community. Maybe it's because that community was already health-wise compromised.
Yep.
Could have been. And so when we start thinking about that, because if you look at that, then that was a big contributing factor. And so that's why we've got to make sure that we understand where we can make an impact. And I think it is in leadership and understanding this. So that's why this keto is really big, and we want to talk about it. We're taking time on our show. This is Natural Nation. This is talk about unity, because this impacts unity. Because if we're fighting over the fact that something's disproportionate when it's not related to that, it's related to the fact you haven't taken care of your health, then it becomes a unity issue. So that's why we're going to talk about it on the show today.
And what one does affects all. When we get the big picture, we realize we're all the one family of God. And so we really do need to be our. See, that was the first problem. The first question God asked Cain, who killed his brother Abel. He says, "Where's your brother?" And what did he say? I don't know.
I'm not my brother's keeper.
Am I my brother's keeper? If he would have answered it the right way and repented, he might have not got kicked out of the garden. But he had a bad attitude, and we need to go back. We need to go back to the thing.
God was saying, "Yes, you are your brother's keeper.
Yes, you are. Now get out of here." Right? We are our brother's keeper, and so why don't we reach across the aisle, reach across the dinner table, reach across even social media sometimes, and begin to have the conversation with each other about. Instead of talking about what happened to your favorite team, or what happened with your quarterback, or what happened on your fishing trip, maybe we could start the conversation about nutrition and about this journey that you're on and that I've just started. And I thought, man, I didn't realize I could have olive oil with Parmesan cheese mixed in it. I just can't eat all the bread with it, right? And so how do you learn to eat these things that you love, and yet set aside the things that really aren't good for you? So
and we're going to talk about some opportunities, because I've been telling Richard, he's got the Boss Cross, and maybe once we get back to Texas temperatures, which is happening pretty quick, because we're going to be up to like 79 today. So pretty cool.
On, I need it.
So once we get back to these Texas temperatures, I was saying, Richard, we could meet at the Boss Cross. I bring out my big barbecue pit, and we cook barbecue, and we come and educate people on keto while you're eating barbecue. You can't beat that. I mean, that's going to be motivating. So, but let's talk about some of the particulars of what it means to be keto, because I think that's the important thing. Now, Richard has talked to you about how you take out carbs, but here's the most amazing thing, which people find crazy. And look, I've been into health and fitness for a long time. If you go back on some of my web stuff, I mean, we're talking the 90s. I started doing bodybuilding, and so early 90s, 91. And so I've been doing health and fitness.
Hit it real quick.
I'm not going to do that. My wife didn't give me permission. All right. He told me to do it. All right. Okay. He made me do that. Honey, he made me do it. I didn't want to do it. All right. But I've been doing this health and fitness stuff for a while now. And so I was equally amazed when my wife was diagnosed with cancer, and my brother, who had previously, Dwayne's had cancer since 2009. And he's come up with some innovative mechanisms or ways to adapt to it. And it consisted of this keto thing, because for years I've been seeing him doing it, but I wasn't ever inquiring, about it. But I was getting the knowledge of why he was doing it. He was doing it because he was trying to make his body alkaline, and by doing keto and getting the carbs out of it, he said cancer feeds on sugar. And so that wasn't ever important to me until my wife got cancer. And I was like, I said, hey, let's do this. And I looked deeper into keto and said, well, let's see if that theory is correct. And we started in October once my wife was diagnosed. And then I just realized how amazingly simple, as you talk about, how easy it is, because you're able to eat all these things. What was hard for me was going to the grocery store and buying the regular of things that I used to buy, the low fat and all this stuff. I was buying all the low fat. That was wrong.
Right.
I mean, I hate to say that, but that was really wrong because of the stuff that they were substituting to make it low fat. And you talk about the chemicals to make it low fat and all those things. You should have been buying the fat stuff. And that's the basis behind keto. And I'm going to tell you quickly here that in the standard keto diet is 75% fat. It's like 20% protein, and then 5% carbs. All right. So that's the way it's broken down. And of course, you can vary that. And so those numbers aren't hard and fast, but that says you're kind of you can go strictly keto, or you can cheat on your keto, as some people do. Yeah, Cheeto keto. All right. So, and you can determine what that is for you. And that's the biggest thing that I always advertise in any fitness program that I've ever done, is that your body is different from everyone else's. Right. And so you need to make it work for you, because you might say, I'm going to go 60% fat. I'm going to go to 35%, and I'm going to go then to 5% of the carbs. you can vary that, because my biggest thing was like I love bread, so that was hard, but that was easily gotten rid of because we found these low carb tortillas, which replace them, and man, they're delicious. And so I haven't had a slice of bread since October, which is amazing for me, because I could go through a loaf in a day because I was such a bread eater.
I don't eat bread anymore.
Yeah,
That's
I don't either.
difficult.
I don't either.
It's funny when I go to the Mexican food restaurant, instead of the fried tortillas, I get a bowl of hot sauce and a spoon, and they just, my father-in-law, when we were at the Mexican food restaurant, I'm drinking hot sauce. He's like, "Oh no, I can't. I can't do that." But you just to learn how to acquire a taste for something. I like the sugar buzz, but what I like more than the sugar buzz is that I don't have to deal with the sugar crash.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And just go live better.
Oh, and let's talk about sugar for a second. Yeah, because sugar, you got to stay away from sugar, because that is, like, I call it the food murderer. Sugar is terrible. Not to mention that I really think that is a huge part of our big cancer crisis in America, is that we've got too much sugar, and cancer feeds on that. Because what my doctor brother, I've got a brother who's a doctor, medical doctor, he says, the reality is all of our bodies have a level of cancer. We all have a level of cancer, and because it's just what they call malignant cells, and so you have cells who just go rogue. The question is, does your diet and everything feed that and make it to the point where it becomes full blown? And I think that's where diet comes in. And we've been putting all this sugar and all this processed stuff in our systems, and that's why we have this big problem here in the United States. And so with sugar, the good news is science has come to the rescue, and they've got this fake sugar, not the aspartame, none of that stuff, the Splenda or anything like that. They've got what's called erythritol, and it is great. You can find it in Walmart. You can find everything in Walmart, basically. But you go and they've got
natural.
It is natural. It's what they call. It comes from. Comes from the. They call it alcohol. The fruit of the alcohol that is produced by vegetation.
Okay.
And they take that and they crystallize it. And so it becomes solid, and like they've got brown sugar, they've got white sugar, they've got powdered sugar, all this in erythritol. Swerve is one of the brands, and you go in our house, you'll find that Swerve.
I've never heard of this.
It is great. Oh, it is
really?
So great, because if you take the granulated type, because they've got, like I said, confection powder type sugar, they got brown sugar, and if you've been off of sugar as long as I have, then it tastes to you just like sugar.
Yeah.
Just like sugar. It bakes like sugar. You can use it like sugar in your coffee, in your whatever you're eating. And so it's amazing. And like you were saying earlier, there's no crash. There's no spike in the blood sugar level. And that allows you to do keto, and that keeps you healthy. That is the greatest thing. So it's amazing. They've got keto ice cream. Hey, we're going to talk about some more of these foods when we come back after the break. I got a lot to talk about, and we don't have much time left. So we're going to take a break, and we'll hit that as soon as we come back after the break.
I want to talk about your diet.
Keto foods. We got you coming after the break. Talk about unity. We're back at Talk About Unity, and today we're not just talking about unity, we're talking about keto unity. All right. So we're glad to be back, and hey, it's the last segment of the show, and so we got to cover some things in the next three minutes here. We want to talk about, and that is, so Richard wanted to know, what does my keto day look like, dietarily?
Yeah, that's it. I want to know about breakfast, lunch, dinner, and,
here it is.
And your sweet tooth snack.
I got it all. I got it all. All right. So I mean, you can't, like you were saying before. Bacon and eggs, you can't beat that for breakfast. But not only is it bacon and eggs with cheese, and, and we put onions, and we put jalapenos, we put all that kind of stuff in there. So I make my wife these delicious omelets, you know, and she loves bacon. You know, I'm a sausage guy, but she loves bacon. Yeah. So we're cooking bacon. I usually cook her bacon, and I'll eat sausage or whatever. So that's our breakfast, and we vary what we do with that, because the other thing that sometimes because I'm kind of a light person. At the end of the day, from 6 p.m. to like 10, I'm eating tons.
Really?
She's the exact opposite. Yeah, she eats most of her food in the morning and before lunch and everything like that. I eat late in the day. I don't eat much in the first part of the day because I eat very light. But anyway, so we do that, and then then I'm making her for lunch. She's very big on salads. And so that's the thing. On keto, you got to be aware, because all vegetables are not created equally. Right. Some of those things are very high in carbs, and they will convert those carbs in your system to sugar, which is a bad thing, especially if you're on cancer. So watch, all the vegetables are not the same. You can have things like Brussels sprouts, and broccoli is good. Those are great. Green beans are good. And asparagus is good. I've learned how to make some killer asparagus, which is really good. So you can have some of those things, but be very careful. And so my wife will have a salad, and I'll give her romaine lettuce, and put all the other.
Spinach is good.
Yes, spinach is good. Yeah. So you put all those things, and at the end of the day, top it all off with cheese. Whatever you do, top it off with cheese, because cheese is cool on keto. We go through this cheese like it's crazy. We get these big 2-pound things, and we grate our own cheese or slice our own cheese, whatever we do. So we do that. So that's kind of like lunch. And then for dinner, we're always having something. I'm a carnivore. I'm from Texas, and so whether it's meat, I make these killer ribeye steaks. I put them on the grill, or even simple things like when we're eating hot dogs now. We'll get a hot dog, put it in a tortilla, put some cheese on it with mustard, and you got a hot dog, and it's good to go.
Okay, time out. You said the one word that I've been avoiding. Tortilla. What's the deal on the tortilla?
Yes, all tortillas are not created equally. See, the keto industry is huge because you've got all these manufacturers, these nutritional guys who have discovered that not only is it money making, there are some ways to make these products that are keto friendly. That means low in carbs, because they've understood that carbs is having this deleterious impact on us. Yes. All right. And so what they've done is made these new products. So anytime you go into the store, they'll have a section over there where you can get the regular stuff, but look for the keto section because they've got it. And they call it low carb. The particular brand, there's an Olay brand and there's a La Banderita brand. And if you look up those two brands, both of them make very good low carb tortillas.
So
they're
when it
delicious.
Says low carb, when it's low, how much is low?
Low carb means in a particular case, like one of them would have 2 to 3 grams. Of 2 to 3 grams of carbs. And so if you can have a maximum, like my wife and I use a concept of 25 grams carbs in your whole day.
Okay.
Now, sometimes we might go over, sometimes we might be a little bit under, but 25 is like kind of our goal. So you look at one of those tortillas and you go, yay, I get 3 grams in this one. I could have 4 of these, tortillas, and you could do that. And then you go, but I got to make sure I'm not getting any other carbs anywhere else or whatever. Right. Or, right. So we're not sticklers about it. And that's the cool thing is we're going low carb, but we're not sticklers in saying, we're not writing down and keeping track of it, because that's like a diet plan, and we hate diets.
No, right.
So we're just thinking, trying to mentally think about, is this too much carbs? Because I love fruit. And so all fruits are not created equally. That's the thing you should be getting out of all this keto talk is everything's not equal.
Okay.
Fruit's not different. Some fruits are good. Bananas, bad. Okay. Blackberries, good. Grapes, bad. Strawberries, good. So you kind of got to do that analysis. Blueberries, good. Raspberries, good.
Okay.
Pretty much anything that ends in berry is good. But other things are very high in sugar. Carrots are high in sugar.
Blueberries, blackberries.
Those are all good. Strawberries. All the berries are good. Okay. All the other things are too high. So that's kind of a rundown, generally speaking. And we're going to spend more time talking about keto.
Ice cream.
It's like ice cream. Oh, man, you go and you got to get the keto brand. Go look for Halo. I think it's Halo has a keto brand.
Yep. And
most of them say keto on it. If it doesn't say keto on it, you're not getting the real deal.
What about milk?
Milk, they've got carb low milk.
Where?
Yeah, go over there and just.
It's called low carb milk.
Low carb milk.
Why don't they?
I think it's called Carbo Life or something.
We need to petition the governor and he needs to make every store in Texas have a keto aisle.
Keto aisle.
So we don't have to search. We're searching for keto.
Yeah, you got to search for keto. You do, and that's the work.
It shouldn't be that way.
But once you get comfortable, which I'm comfortable because I'm a Walmart shopper. Once I get comfortable, and Walmart's not endorsing this, they should. All right, but once you get comfortable, though, you know where it is, and you go get it. You know.
Yeah, I'm
and
learning.
so
I'm a label reader. I'm a label reader.
We're going to have to go to the store one day. We'll go make a video. We'll go. You and I will go to Walmart and make a video for the
and
people.
Every time
so they
I
can
find something that's keto, I'm going to go, yes!
Keto. All right, so hey, that's our show for today. We want to thank you all for joining us for COVID, and keto. That was our show today, and how leadership is impacted there. So we're trying to be leaders on this keto thing and help you get your life in check, because we think if you get your life and you become healthy, then you can join us next time here on Talk About Unity.
And you flex like Carlin.
All right, so thank you all. We're out for the day.